So let's speak to the leader of Labour on the opposition of Medway Council, Vince Maple, who joins us this morning. Vince, thank you for being here on this. Now, of course, a lot of listeners get in touch with us regularly here at BBC Radio Kent saying they're not happy about asylum seekers being housed in hotels. They need to go somewhere. Why not here?
Well, good morning, Anna. And look, this is quite a complex situation, and I apologise in advance. I'm going to use a couple of technical terms, which I wouldn't normally do, but is important with this.
Okay.
One of the concerns we've got as a Labour and Co-Operative group is around an issue called permitted development. Now, what does that mean in simple terms? That means that most buildings, particularly commercial buildings, can be redeveloped without the safeguards and scrutiny of the formal planning process. So we have no idea at the moment what Anchorage House looks like inside, the quality of the build, and all the safeguards that you would see with the planning process. You'd have something called a Section 106 agreement, which would lay out a load of different milestones and procedures that a developer would have to go through. This building has none of that. Michael's description is absolutely right. It's either 11 or 12-storey tower block, office block. Used to have the tax office there, HMRC, and the courts. So it's not fit for purpose because not least we're not sure what it looks and feels like inside. I think one of the other things I'd want to say on this as well, Anna, is look, I understand the pressure the government are under, but frankly, they've put themselves under this pressure. Absolutely, nobody should be waiting more than 500 plus days for applications to be processed. And that sits at the door of the Home Office. You know, they should be spending money which is currently going on to things like the Rwanda project, which is not helping anyone apart from the Rwandan government's back pocket.
Well,
actually, getting that money spent on, processing individuals who are applying.
On that, there is going to be a decision, I believe, today on whether it's lawful to take people to Rwanda. We'll watch that carefully on BBC Radio Kent. And one of the other things that the Prime Minister said when he made this big announcement was that they would work really hard to bring the time for processing those claims down. So they are aware of the problems in that situation. But coming back to what you first said, you said the building's not fit for purpose. Well, surely that's surmountable. It can be changed. It can be modified. It would need to be. You'd need to have things like toilets, sinks, and all of that put in because it's office blocks at the moment. And given the coverage of all of this, wouldn't the government be keen to make sure that it was exactly that, fit for purpose?
Well, I think we would have more reassurance if it had gone through that process, as I say, the planning process, which can be frustrating. And I know lots of your listeners will have views on the planning process generally. They may have used it for various bits and pieces or had it done upon them in their community, but actually as a local elected representative, going through that process gives you that peace of mind that actually a developer is going to do things properly, do things in the right way, and we have none of that. We were talking about concerns around this building long before this latest intervention from the Home Office has come forward. So look, we are concerned around the use of that particular piece of legislation and therefore the concerns that leads to with the suggested number of individuals going into the property.
But if you could be reassured that the building would be made safe, would be made adequate, would you still say there's something wrong with the location, or would you be happy with that?
Look, I think if we look at what's happened recently with people in a similar situation with the Homes for Ukraine scheme, Medway is a generous, compassionate place. People have stepped forward. I know, because I've worked closely with organisations like City of Sanctuary in the past, that there absolutely are people who would want to work with the council, work with the Home Office and others to assist those who are in need, who are seeking refuge if they've left from a war-torn country or under persecution. I do have a slight concern around placing a large amount of individuals in one place, potentially without the support. We know Medway Council has not got the resources it needs at the moment. There's no clarification from the Home Office around wraparound care, support, etc. These, we've seen stories, you've covered them on this show, where individuals, a coachload of individuals, have just left in central London. That's if the Home Office's track record is that, I have to be strongly convinced, and I'm not at this stage, that how do we have that reassurance we're not going to have that similar situation here in Medway? So the government's got to do a lot to convince me this is the right thing to do. And at the moment, they're certainly not on the same page as me.
But surely every council would have the same opinion, right? And these people need to be put into suitable accommodation somewhere. Why should Medway get a free pass?
Look, I agree with the principle of everybody, every bit of local government doing their thing, of course. But it's about negotiation. It's about having a conversation. It's not about the Home Office saying we've identified a building, or what happens to be a building which has not gone through the planning process. So that's what I would expect from a Home Office which was functioning properly. The reality is, Anna, as we all know quite clearly, with waits of 2-3 years for applications to be processed, this Home Office is not fit for purpose.
Actually, this is one of the rare occasions, I believe, where you and the leader of the council, Conservative Alan Jarrett, actually agree. You're speaking as one.
Yeah, we'll have slightly different flavours to some of our views on some of this. He and I, we've both spoken on your show along with Clive Johnson around the judicial review. We take a different view on that. But this is, although a similar issue, this is substantially quite different for all the reasons that's been laid out this morning. So yes, there is cross-party consensus on this, and the Home Office need to be hearing that loud and clear. And I would suggest they need to come back to the table and have a conversation around what is a suitable way for Medway to play its part, along with all other councils up and down England. Anchorage House is not that suggestion.
Well, on that, the Home Office has given us a statement about all of this, and they say the number of people arriving in the UK who seek asylum and require accommodation has reached record levels. We know that. Placing, they say, unprecedented pressures on the system. The Home Office and partners identify sites for accommodation based on whether they are safe and available. While we accept that hotels do not provide a long-term solution, they do offer safe, secure and clean accommodation, and we're working hard with local authorities to find appropriate accommodation during this challenging time. So what happens now? What's the next step in this process, Vince? Do you know?
Well, I think senior officers will be, now this has been thrust upon us with Home Office identifying a building, not saying can we have a conversation around how do we make sure Medway plays its part appropriately. Obviously, that dialogue will continue. I've said to the leader of the council, look, we'll want to support them on this where appropriate. And look, we need the Home Office to come up with a better solution than the one they currently have. That comes from dialogue. That comes from dialogue.
Well,